even though I have a why, I have I have all this good stuff up here that I'm supposed to have, but it's putting it all together consistently and persistently every day, reminding myself why this is important, and things, and then remembering that sometimes I have to tell people no because I need to go get some exercise, or I need to go do this because I'm not going to be successful if I don't. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. We are live at Dry Fly. It's Friday Conversations. Welcome to everybody here in the room. Welcome to everybody listening in online. We are excited to jump into a fifth Friday, which is a topic-less, themeless Friday. We kind of go, it's kind of the whole idea of Friday Conversations is to just let the conversation go where it goes. And for those of you that aren't in the room, you're missing out because we've already basically had the conversation. This is a great room of great people that have unique perspectives on a lot of different topics. We've talked about driving. We've talked about how that influences what we want to talk about today, which is mindset. So real quick, we're going to jump around the room with some quick introductions. If you are here in the room, take a minute to introduce yourself. What line of work are you in? What is your company name? What is something that you want people listening to know, or here in the room? We kind of all know each other already, but this is just a quick introduction of who you are, what you do, and then we'll jump into mindset and how that impacts us personally and the world around us. So I'm going to start to my left with the one and only Mr. Lauren Baker.
Well, that's a dirty lie to start because my dad has the same name, but my name's Lauren Baker. I work with a company called Perfectus Business Consulting, and really we do kind of three things. For entrepreneurs, we help them either start or acquire business. We help them grow, which generally gets into systems, hiring, some strategic mindsets, and then we help business owners exit well. So leave a legacy by either selling it, building equity in the business and selling it, or maybe it's building equity to pass it on to the family, or it could even be a scenario where the owner has a great employee core and wants to sell it to the employees. So I'll have to say that's what we help entrepreneurs do. Happy to be here today.
Wow, I instantly choked. Hey, I'm energy, stamina, and
Echo some. Oh, it's me. It's me.
good job, John.
All right,
John,
we should get
echo.
we got an echo there.
Hi, my name is JC Dimitrova. I am the owner of a Precision Driving Academy. We teach people how to drive. So
Awesome. Right. Hi, Rob Reuter with Edic Designs. I am business consultant and coach and digital marketing strategist. I work with businesses that need technology, help improve systems, and try to find the right fit between modern technology and growing businesses.
Reed White with Westpac Wealth Partners. We are a general contractor of wealth, working with successful companies and business owners. If you look at any successful business owner, they have multiple subcontractors, CPAs, multiple attorneys, 401k provider, personal insurance agent, financial advisor, but ultimately the business owner is serving as the general contractor of all those people. So what we do, we come in as the team serving as a general contractor of wealth. We have a team of CPAs, attorneys, financial planners, and certified exit planners to make sure that the business financials and the personal financials are all as efficient and cohesive as possible.
Thank you. Nazira with Compassion Catering. We do allergy-friendly catering, weddings, private dinners, memorial services, wherever there's food needed. And currently, actually, this is our third year going in again and running for the Best of Inlanders. So if you want to vote for us, best salads and best catering, we're just really happy to be here and we really love what we do.
Awesome. Welcome. I'm Jonathan Biron. I sell real estate for a living and I love doing that. Love to talk to anybody that you know that's thinking about buying, selling, or getting into real estate. They want to be an agent. They want to get into investing. Anything within that real estate world is the sweet spot for me for my day job. And then I just love getting people together and particularly having the conversations that don't necessarily come easily. Not the how's your day, how's the weather, but really getting into the conversations that matter, that help us get a better grasp on this life that we get the privilege of living. And so that's what we're doing here today. I do want to highlight, we are at Dryfly, and just as Nazira is trying to get into best of, Dryfly has a few best ofs that they would like to get. I'm going to post a link to that on the Facebook feed as well as the YouTube when we get there, or at least Zane, hopefully, who is listening with us via Zoom and on Facebook, I believe. Hi, Zane. We'll get that onto the YouTube. Oh, here he is. Maybe there he is. Oh, yep. I saw him for a second. Go, Zane. Say hi.
Hello. Yes, I'm here and we will add that link.
That's my bad. Okay, Zane, now try.
No worries. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we'll make sure to add that link. And yeah, I'm with Zebra Go. We like to help answer phones.
That's perfect. I will, I'll help you out just because we're technical difficulties. Zebra Go does an absolutely amazing job of interfacing with your clients while you're doing the work that you do. So if you know plumbers, electricians, service providers that when they're doing the work, their hands are dirty, they can't really get to the phone, they can't schedule and book. Zebra Go steps in and they take care of all of that client-facing stuff so that you can stay focused on providing the service that you provide. So huge shout out to Zane and Zebra Go. And then also huge shout out to Rob at Idic Designs. I know you already introduced yourself, but Rob and Idic Designs provides the lunch every week. So in case you didn't already hear, we have this amazing lunch here every week. And actually, I'm going to give another shout out to Dryfly. Spencer and Patrick created this amazing, I don't know if you guys know me, I love soda water. This is like a, what do you call it? A faux mixed drink kind of thing. And it's zero calories,
Mocktail.
000 mocktail. That's the word I was looking for. And it's really good. It's really good. Now, part of the reason that I'm bringing this up is that I don't think they want to sell these. Like they just made them for themselves. And so I'm encouraging everybody to come, like it's a secret menu item. You can't find it on the website anywhere, but just come in and be like, hey, we want that soda water that you guys make it famous just for fun. Cause I like Spencer. Cheers to that. Okay. Among the many things that have been discussed already, a common theme that I'm sensing is mindset. And I want to give a shout out to another gentleman that's not here, hasn't actually been on the show at all, but hopefully will start to join us. His name is Isidore, and he and I were talking, and he got really curious about mindset. And he point blank asked me, how do you do that? How do you change your mindset? And it caught me off guard because it's something we talk about a lot. And when you have changed your mindset about something, it's easy to look back and say, oh yeah, I used to think this, and now I realize this. But I never stopped to examine the mechanics of where I am today. How do I say, what's my next shift? What's the next thing for me? So it's a seed of an idea, and I see the contemplative looks around the room, which I'm loving. Hopefully those of you that are listening online are also having some thoughts. Throw things in the comments. I want to get this started with that bigger question of what really even is mindset shift? Why does it matter? And how can we engage with it with some intentionality? You're up.
Okay, so I just want to start off with a disclaimer. As Thriving Body Holistic Fitness, part of the holistic approach is mindset. So if I talk too much, someone tell me to shut up, please. There we go. She's got a hand signal, right? But I do think I think one of the valuable things to start off is to define what mindset is. Because I know there's a lot of mindset stuff online where people think it's like this stoic grittiness or there's different words like warrior mindset and all this things. But I think generally, if we just kind of define mindset as your default, and I'm gonna say behaviors, habits, and thoughts. Because a lot of your habits are kind of subconscious programs, so it's kind of a setting in the mind. But I think defining mindset first as your default responses, kind of helps you identify what your mindset is versus like trying to figure out the right terms between amateur and pro mindsets or growth and fixed mindsets or whatever dichotomies people have. Just kind of taking an inventory of what your defaults are reveals what your mindset is.
I like that. So where I was gonna go with this, I was busy trying to find the gentleman's name. In the 1950s, he was a researcher looking at how we teach things, and he was trying to, instead of theorizing how people learn, he actually focused on what teachers do and effective teaching and how. And one of the things he ended up teaching was mindset shift. And so when during the pandemic, I was looking at getting into online education, I studied under an education course designer who taught his methodology. And I thought maybe this would give us a framework to work with. So what he identified as a mindset force is how do you get somebody to change their mindset, had 5 elements to it. The first element was you had to go over what doesn't work. Everybody has up here something that they think this is the way it is. And so the first thing you have to do is point out to them why it doesn't work that way. What's wrong with this thinking? Then the second stage is then you have to give them what does work. This is what you're trying to move them to. But the third element was really the most important, and that is you have to give them a model to illustrate that, see, this is a person who does this, or this is in a situation where this successful method works. And so they can look at it and recognize, okay, yeah, this person is doing this thing. And then 2 more elements though, because we need them to adopt the new mindset. The fourth element is they have to find their why. Why is it important to me to stop doing this and start doing this? And then finally, the 5th element of the mindset is you need a support system to help reinforce your practice. And this is literally 70-year thought going into what does it take to move somebody from one mindset to another. That's awesome.
It's funny that you mention it because I feel like we have done that as a school to change the mindset of driver training.
Yeah.
So, we saw what's out there in the market. We realized that our demographic doesn't learn the traditional way. And then, so we adapted our curriculum based on how they learn. And then, also we articulate our process to both the students and the parents. And then hopefully, they will embrace it, which I think they are right now, and we're working on the last part is to continue on with that support. So it's kind of nice to kind of hear that what we're doing, we're already developed that on our own.
Right. Well, I thought it would just give you a little more time here. I thought your story about the student that had a very bad habit and you discovered where that influence come. Maybe you can tell that quick story.
Yes. So, we had a mother and a daughter, and the daughter, when we're teaching her how to drive, we noticed that she was using her left foot for braking and accelerating. And we're like, why are you using your left foot as opposed to your right foot? And then the mother happens to be there. Well, I learned it from my mom. And the mom was teaching her daughter using her left foot instead of her right. So we took the extra step and taught the mom, you have to use your right foot for braking and accelerating, and this is why. Now let's develop good habits in driving.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as far as the question goes of how do we change our mindset, you know, Rob, you mentioned what doesn't work and defining what does work, right? I think the first step of essentially changing your mindset is a willingness to learn, right? Because you brought up fixed mindset versus growth mindset. If we're willing to learn, we're willing to also accept the possibility that we might be wrong.
Yeah.
And if we're willing to accept the possibility that we might be wrong, then we now arrive at the possibility of figuring out what doesn't work, right?
Right.
But if we're stuck on this is the right way, right? No matter what it is, if you've convinced yourself that this is the right way, there is no change. There is no growing your mindset, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
But to add to it, I think that you have to be open to see what else is out there too.
Exactly. And that's part of learning, right? You have to be willing to accept the possibility that you might be unaware of something. There might be something else out there, you know, and we see this in our society today a lot where people, you know, whether it's the algorithms of social media, driving content that we already believe to further, I'll say, solidify our own opinions, as opposed to accepting the possibility that, hey, there might be a different way of thinking here. And even just the way we approach learning really starts to formulate the possibility of a growth mindset or changing your mindset.
Interesting. It's really good. I want to jump to you, Lauren, because I want to hear your thoughts on this because I know that they're percolating. I'll give you if you're ready, I'll let you jump in. Otherwise, I was going to stall for you for a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting mindset, you know, I think what really resonates with me is what you said, Reed, like, there has to be, if you want to have change in your life, you've got to have humility. I think that's kind of what I heard there is that, and then what that looks like then is like, for mindset shifting, is you have to be honest with yourself. So, you know, and we're not good at that in our culture. Like, we don't know, we can just look around and see that. We're not good about giving feedback to each other, receiving feedback. We're not good at that doing with ourselves even. And I think that's maybe for mindset shift is you got to have that humility and apply to yourself first. And if you're unable to be honest with yourself, I think then it's really hard to have a mindset because you just think that you've got all the answers, right? And that's a lockdown on your brain.
No, it's interesting. The thought that I had when Reed was sharing, and it really dovetails with that, is so I had this moment with my daughter and my son a couple of years, 4 years ago, maybe even. And we were driving together. So it's just the two of them and myself. And my daughter, so she must have been 5 or 6 at the time. And she looks out, she sees a couple of geese flying by, and she says, I can't remember how she pluralized it. She said gooses, or, you know, inappropriately pluralized it. And my son, who had a very good grasp on the grammar that was being incorrectly done, corrected her, and he corrected her gently, but it was a correction, and she was right. In her mind, like that, she's looking at a thing that she's labeled, and it just is that thing, like no more than, you know, like if I have water in this glass, it's like, that's water in a glass. Like, it's just, that is what it is. And he presented.
That's a mocktail in a glass, sir.
Thank you, Stephen. I submit to that mindset correction. There's a mocktail in a glass, not water. If there's water, it's mostly water. And to your point, we'll get there at another point in this arduous journey, I'm sure. This weird word that he was introducing to her, geese. She's like, no, that's ridiculous. That's not geese. There's two gooses. I mean, And so she actually had a very traumatic reaction to it. She really broke down. She wouldn't believe it. She wouldn't accept it. She thought he was making fun of her, and he's old enough that was very common experience. So she wasn't wrong, but he was gently trying to correct it. I had this aha moment that, and I'll say it strongly, although I probably need to backpedal this to some extent. All learning is traumatic. Because learning necessarily means me letting go of something that I believe is true. And that's where, Reed, what you were talking about, there's like, you used some gentle words, humble, and curious, which I love the word curious. And at the same time, I think there's something less gentle that happens where we break. There's something that is like, I knew this thing. And that's where I think there is an aspect of like, the reason we're even here, we're all curious types. We want to learn, we want to grow. I think there's a different, and there's maybe small mindset shifts that happen with that. But I think that like big, like going from, oh, I could never, I would never, I can't, I won't, going from that to really truly growth is sort of like the parable of the harvest or the seed. The seed goes into the ground, dies, and comes back with new life. The phoenix rising from the ashes, like that sort of metamorphosis transformation doesn't happen without a strong traumatic something. And I'm throwing it out, like I said, it's aggressive. So I want pushback. I want like, prove me wrong, right? Like, more Stephen Hicks' thick. I'm setting up a table with a prove me wrong, like, but seriously, like interact with that a little bit.
Well, I think my first thought was there's an old seminar with Bob Proctor and John Canary, and John Canary has this line where like it's easy to teach kids. They only have to make up their mind. Adults, it's tougher because they got to do this difficult task called changing your mind. And so I think that fits in with the kind of where we're at in life. We were joking beforehand about how I need to take that bald trip soon. Well, I'm an adult. It's at the point where we got to change our mind, right? Instead of just make up the mind. So there is that little bit of resistance and friction and almost a conflict with who you were versus who you could be.
I think, just to jump in, so I think that one of the distinctions we need to make here is we've talked about learning and mindset shift. But I think a lot of us, we think when you get the data or the information, that's enough. Oh, I've understood the information, therefore I'll change.
Wow.
And that never happens. So thinking about your story about the seed dying, right, and coming from the ground, is this idea of a death to self, right, a dying to this idea, to these notions that I have, to this old way of thinking. But that isn't just the data coming in, new data. I actually have to act on it. And I think that's really the mind shift thing that I think we're all assuming is we're acting on it. But data isn't enough. I'll just say that. There's got to be something to go with it. Because we all know, and we're in the age of data, there's so many people talking about so many things about mind shift, coaching. I mean, it's the industry I'm in. It's hard to get through it all. And so it's not about data. Like, we know that. I've sat with many business owners. They've got all the information in front of them. We wrote a list. We know what to do. So it's actually the acting upon it. And I think that's the crux of the mind. All I have to say is we're talking about this. What is it that activates us, that gets us to go? So for me, I would say that is an intrinsic thing. So it's hard for me to even tell someone else how to do it because I like to learn. I'm curious. I just like to invest in people, understand their stories. And I think that really benefits you when you're curious about others. Once again, you put yourself behind, focus on the person in front of you, and that learning, then you're starting to see how someone else's has a mindset different than yours and what's happening. But I think you gotta do that. Okay.
It's kind of interesting, a conversation, Lauren, you and I were having earlier, I think speaks to that, what has to happen. Again, as you say, you can get all the data and somebody can, know it. But until they embrace the story that it tells, or you can get them to see it from a different perspective. And I think that's the problem with starting with the teaching of what doesn't work, this doesn't work. Well, if that's not a problem that they want to solve, it doesn't matter how much you say. Doesn't matter what the data is, they know it works. I run into this, or it was literally the principle of why I founded IDIC Designs, was because I kept going in and teaching these classes, and people would tell me that they had invested in some software, some enterprise software, and because the CEO or the CFO had seen this demo, and there was this beautiful report, and they loved it, so they bought it. And then the tech team installed it and discovered that in order for them to get that data, they had to change everything about their business. And at that point, they weren't ready to change. And so they just shelved it because it didn't work. And I would always come, no, it worked exactly the way it was designed to work. The problem was the system required things that you were not ready to adopt. So what as you're saying, is it's not enough to tell them it doesn't work. You have to figure out, is this a problem you want to solve first? And until you get to that point that they say, yes, this is, and the other thing occurred to me, something you said was, or I think maybe it was Stephen was talking about children versus adults. And there's a term, neuroplasticity. It's like, as a child, your mind has not been made yet. There are all kinds of connections, but as you get older, you filter those many connections down to the ones that are reinforced. And so it is harder to change because you have to wake up and say, nope, that's what I learned is not the way it actually works. Sarah, you're looking.
Like the owl knows that you're ready to say something.
Yeah.
It's looking at you.
You're up.
Your turn, Sarah.
Oh, no. This is a really good topic for me, I guess, to listen in more on. I'm a young adult, 30, gonna be 31 this year. So I hit the phase of, I don't know it all finally. In my 20s, it was, I know everything. And I think being in business really humbled me a lot, just because I thought, it was the next thing to achieve. I worked in the industry I work in, and I thought, the reality of it was, for me, wasn't more so to make money. I really loved being in hospitality. I really enjoy being in hospitality. So my family, where's your career? When are you going to get out of the restaurant industry? When are you going to, because it kind of started with being in college and then working in a restaurant, that's kind of what everyone does. But I really fell in love with hospitality. And so it was really challenging becoming, mid-20s in hospitality, still not being able to, purchase a home, be married, and all those things that all my peers were doing, because of a status of, career is really important. However, I do understand there's a mindset too of for me was what I'm passionate about. How can I take that further than just working in a hospital or working in those places I tried, but I wasn't really excelling. I was making the money, but I wasn't really, it wasn't good for me. So working in where I am now, I'm really thankful because I had to humble my mind, and I'm still in humility in order to get where I was, start praying, seeking what is my purpose in life. We did that last week. And so once I understood my purpose, I was able to attain more of the goals in where I am today. However, it's a lot of learning, praying, listening in, and knowing that I do not know everything. And it's not always what you know, it's who you know, it's how you can listen in as well. And so just really taking heed to where God is putting me in my path. And obviously I'm here at this table today. So I'm more so taking notes and just really listening in, because mindset's one of those things I'm still tackling and learning as I grow and age as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing that.
You know, I want to pick up, I think you said it, but maybe you didn't, no, you just said actually thinking about like the journey and like kind of suffering. And I think that's part of it too. So my wife and I talked about this a week earlier. Caveat. But there's humans in our life that are totally content to passively suffer. They'll sit in just a horrible situation, and it's amazing that they can just sit in that. And you're like, dang, like, I mean, it's actually impressive, truly. But they're okay to passively suffer as opposed to just like a suffering and I'm gonna push through it, or like you used the other day, grit. Like this idea, I am suffering, I got punched in the face, but I'm gonna push through.
Right.
And so I wonder, as we're thinking about mind shift, you have to have that ability to not just sit in the suffering, because as business owners, you're gonna get hit over and over again. That is, you're gonna get to certain points where the pain is a lot. And either as a business owner, you're gonna feel that pain and you're gonna adjust, or you're gonna feel that pain and say, yeah, we're just gonna sit. And a lot of people can just sit in that passive suffering. So when we're thinking about mindset shifts, it's also that a desire and willingness to sit in that liminal space and in between space that's uncomfortable, in a posture of humility where I'm going to meet the right person, hear the right information, read the right books, and start to take new information in and then act on it. But I think that suffering is another big thing that, man, so many people in our culture are great at passive suffering, but it's like, what is active suffering? Like that's actually how do you get there?
I feel that a lot as a fitness coach. I witness this all the time. There's so many people that I've talked to that are in that passive suffering where their health is declining. They're developing chronic disorders like COPD or congestive heart failure. And the solutions, in theory, very simple. We know the information to how to move the body, not in a meathead way, but in a way that genuinely supports your health. We know simple, sensible nutrition, not the extreme diets, but still that decision to do it, to do the deliberately, intentionally uncomfortable thing, is getting them to make that decision can be incredibly challenging. And it is something that continues to baffle me, people's willingness to sit in that passive suffering, as you called it. So I kind of want to toss it back to you, since you've had this discussion with your wife about the passive suffering versus like the grit or the intentional actions. What do you think are some things that would get people to cross the line?
Yeah, you know, I'll go back. I think two things. There's that intrinsic piece, man. I can only control what I'm doing every day. So I'll just have to leave it out there that I think there's an internal motivation piece, which is hard to touch. But I think you said this too, Reed, there is this idea, and it's honestly one of the things I'm trying to do at Perfect This is it's a community to have people around you. So as you're trying to make a hard mind shift change, and you think about folks that have, and we all have experiences with it, folks in our life who've struggled with drug addiction. One of the most important things you can do is just literally get them out of the community they're in, go put them in another community where there's just people around who are going to reinforce the mind shift, right? And so I think when we talk about how do we encourage one another to do that, it's that community piece. Like you've got to be around like-minded folks. You know, growing up, my dad would always say, "You're going to be with who you hang out with."
Yeah.
You know?
So here's a couple things on this. One, the passive suffering. Okay. What I think that stems from is we have to be very mindful of our I am statements. Okay. Our identity is ultimately, we are going to always look to reinforce who we think we are. One who, because we being is everything is dealing. Every one of us has insecurities, and we all choose different things, different vices to cope with those things. Whether it's, you know, we use the term comfort food. Comfort food simply, it's a coping mechanism. It makes me feel good. Why is pizza the number one? We all just ate pizza. Why is pizza the number one thing that we all eat? Because of how cheese affects our brain. And we say it's comfort food. It makes us all feel good, right? Yeah. But if you want to change something, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your business, whether it's how you show up in life, what your mindset is, right? You have to be able to, going back to what you said, Rob, what doesn't work? And if you're suffering passively, right? you have to be willing to, again, take that posture of humility and look inwardly and say, look, why am I doing this? And is it serving me or is it not? Right? Am I choosing these foods because that's what I grew up with and that's all I knew and this is my comfort meal? Well, is it actually making you comfortable because you're tired all the time? Is it actually helping you because you have no energy, right? You have a gut, you have whatever it might be, and we're all dealing with this, but you have to be willing to reassess your perspective. And I think our perspective is our mindset, right?
Yeah.
Your mindset is going to shape how you view every instance, every circumstance, every person. You might have a mindset that people are out to get you. And so when you meet people, the walls are up, man, right? You might have the mindset that you are safe and secure. And even if that person is out to get you, it doesn't matter because you're secure, right? And so, going back to the original question of like, what is mindset? I think mindset, the easiest way to determine what your mindset is like you said, what's your initial wiring? What's your perspective, right? How do you view situations? And then in growing out of that, like I said, the posture of humility, determining what doesn't work, what doesn't serve you, and learning, hey, what's a different approach here?
Yeah.
And on the topic of I am statements, something that would serve our society very well is just a statement of I am curious.
Yeah.
I am curious what they believe. I am curious if there's another way to do this. Curiosity helps to also instill a sense of compassion.
Totally. Yeah.
Wondering where someone's coming from, but also I would say curiosity is just it's a fundamental building block to learning and growing.
I want to jump in real quick
Yeah.
and just double up on the I am statements.
Yeah.
I think probably the most powerful tool I've found in psychology is an old thing called psycho-cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He was actually he was a plastic surgeon, like one of the first plastic surgeons, and he was really fascinated by he would physically change the structure of someone's looks, and they would come in and tell him how horrible he looked. It was like, no, we objectively changed your nose. It's not big anymore, but it's that self-image. In psycho-cybernetics, if you get a chance, if you're a reader, strongly recommend the book Psycho-Cybernetics. But it does talk about that self-image, that self-identity. How do you view yourself? And, with that concept of the self-image, kind of what I've done with clients is like the psycho-cybernetic exercise I do with them is just have them go through, just mentally run off a list of like, when I'm thriving, I blank, whether that's an action, whether that's a description. And just the more you think about yourself at your best or yourself in a different mindset, or however, the reality is our personalities are all make-believe anyway. So let's just make believe for the best. But then you go through envisioning and altering that self-image, and eventually your default actions align with how you view yourself, whether it's an I am statement, whether it's a when I'm thriving statement. That self-image determines your behaviors. It determines your background biochemistry. It becomes fate. And so I am statements, psycho-cybernetics, just wanted to pair those together.
When you're, go ahead, Rob.
So I was just gonna throw a couple of things. One, a shout out to Debbie Ramirez, who's joined us through the Facebook Live. And she
She would be great for this conversation.
Yeah, could not agree more with Lauren. Getting into a group of people we identify with, but who are committed to moving forward, helps us create a new sense of identity. That I am part of this group and we are moving forward. And I wanted to reinforce that concept because one of the elements that Gagne, teaches when teaching a mindset change is
last element is ongoing support for that new identity.
Yep.
That if you don't have a support, we talked about it with the drug, and I happen to know a gentleman that, was addicted and things, and he struggled for years. And now he's sober and looking forward to life again. But it took exactly that. You had to get out of the condition you were in, get your transformation going, but then he had to get into a culture where it would reinforce the new identity that he is embracing. And no amount of lecturing and saying you just need to get off of drugs is going to make that transformation. That's why we need to have environments around ourselves that reinforce our identity and our desired mindset shift. So that's why we should, build business communities where we have these open conversations. Because otherwise we can, sit in our little castle turrets and say, I'm a business owner and I'm doing all this, and we're still making the same mistakes until we get out there.
Hey, little sidebar. You had said Gagne with something, and then when you first brought up the 5-part framework.
That was Gagne's framework.
Okay, sweet.
So, yeah.
What was the third and fourth point?
The third point that I just made
On the
or
Gagne,
on
gotcha.
Gagne's model. So Gagne's third element is a model that you can look at that represents the ideals.
Like a case study or a
mindset,
testimonial.
Right, a testimonial case study, somebody you can look to and say, hey, here's a business owner that's successful following the method. So think about your case study.
Mentorship,
Right,
yeah.
mentorship and things like that. And then the fourth element is the emotional element. That is, you have to know why you want this change. You can't just change because somebody tells you you need to be this way. You have to go, I agree, things aren't working, but I want my life to look like this. This is what I want. Why? Because I'm not meeting my, financial obligations, or my children need this kind of person in their life, or whatever it is you're doing. And once you can anchor it to your why, then you're more likely to make the change.
Well, going back to the fitness component of like the passive suffering, right? Finding the why. How many people say, oh, I'd like to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds? Everybody wants to,
Nobody
right?
wants to.
But you have to.
If everyone's saying it,
No, no, no.
nobody's thinking it.
Time out. Everybody wants to, but nobody wants to pay the price, right? Nobody wants to pay the price, but they don't realize the price that they're already paying, right? That going back to understanding the why, right? It totally changes things when all of a sudden you have 3 kids and now you have a heart attack and you're like, oh crap, I want to be around for these kids, and now their why gets deeper, right? But we need to be able to essentially project the same thing in how our mindset and perspective is creating a positive or negative relationship, right? Look at our relationships with our family members, our parents, our spouse, our kids. How's your mindset actually affecting that? Are you thinking about that, right? And really digging into on the topic of why, going deep with that, right?
And I will add on to that and point out that even that is not always enough.
Sure.
Because literally this week was an anniversary for me, because a year ago on the 27th, I had a 100% blockage in my widowmaker. And so a year ago, literally today, I was showing up for Friday Conversation saying, hey, by the way, guys, the reason I've been so silent this week is I had a heart attack on Monday. And Stephen knows that still doesn't change everything.
Mhm.
Even though I have a why, I have a, I have all this good stuff up here that I'm supposed to have. But it's putting it all together consistently and persistently every day, reminding myself why this is important, and things, and then remembering that sometimes I have to tell people no, because I need to go get some exercise.
Yeah.
Or I need to go do this because I'm not going to be successful if I don't. So.
A big theme that keeps coming back for me that I don't know that we've said it, although the motivation thing is obviously going to be core tied to this, is the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And I still struggle to fully grasp this concept. So it's a delight for me. Like I love those things that I like don't understand and I have to keep working on. And my understanding at this point is that extrinsic is anything that's outside of me. So if you guys tell me like, hey, that's enough on the soda water, like, let's drink some regular water or no more, whatever, cocktails for you, or cut you off. Or my wife says you shouldn't drink so much, or my kid says we want to play more, and I do it for them, right? That's obviously all of that's like extrinsic. But my thought about intrinsic, I discovered, was also still not quite, it was still an extrinsic that I was thinking was intrinsic, is like, if I want to run in Bloomsday this year, right? So in order to run in Bloomsday, I need to do certain things, and Stephen could help me ramp up to being ready for that particular race and hit my goals and all of that stuff. To me, in my mind, those things that I would be doing would be intrinsic because I want to run in Bloomsday. And again, I might be off on this, but my understanding.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Somebody that corrected me is that those are still extrinsic because it's something that I'm doing because I want a different outcome. And so I'm doing I wake up early and go run, or I sprint, or whatever the things are. Those are still extrinsic. Intrinsic is when it becomes, I like running. I like waking up. This is who, and it becomes identity. This is who I am. And so to harp on my soda water, I actually do. I love sparkling water, and Lauren gives me a hard time about it because
Nobody's perfect.
It's something that I genuinely enjoy. And so take maybe alcohol as something that, like, at some point somebody becomes convinced that this is who I am. I drink alcohol, whatever their frequency is, whatever it is. I enjoy this. It becomes identity. And then let's say that person recognizes, and Reed, you keep talking about things that tie it in for me, where it's like, I want a different outcome. I know that this is affecting my ability to think clearly. It's affecting my sleep. It's affecting all these health outcomes. And so seemingly intrinsically, I convinced myself to make a change. I'm not going to drink anymore cold turkey. I'm going to moderate my drinking. I'm going to, whatever it is. It doesn't become intrinsic until and Reed, if I could pick on you.
Yeah.
You chose not to eat the pizza that we had served. You went downstairs and got it gluten-free because you know how gluten will make you feel. And I don't know the details of it, but like having wrestled with gluten myself, I can appreciate a little bit, but I think the drinking is the same thing. Like there's this, like, I know how I feel. And so I don't even want that.
Yep.
Versus I want a different outcome. So I'm going to say I don't want that, but it's my identity still.
But to your point, even with the alcohol, I mean, I find alcohol kind of an interesting topic.
It's fascinating. Yes.
Especially with the identity piece. Because if you ask someone, hey, what do you like to drink? Oh, I'm a whiskey guy. I am a whiskey guy.
Ooh.
Not I like whiskey. I'm a whiskey girl. I'm a whiskey guy. It's like, that's their identity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I'm abstaining, or like there's usually an I am statement typically behind it. But like very rarely do people say like, oh, I'm a pizza guy. It's like, I love pizza, but it's not your identity.
Right,
But
right.
when it comes to your choice alcohol, for some reason, it's like, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's good.
But it isn't, I think, Jonathan, you've landed on something that's really, critically important on that front, and that is, and I'll relate it to myself. So I have to be very careful in my environment at the house. What I put into the house is a direct reflection of what I'm doing. So I am house sitting for my sister right now. She has a pantry that is just full. Okay, the first thing I do when I get to her place last night is make a quesadilla. Okay, because I'm a cheese guy.
Cheese guy.
Just yeah, cheese guy. If there is cheese and tortillas in the refrigerator, I'm going to have a quesadilla.
I resonate with that. I am a cheese guy. also.
And much to Stephen's chagrin, I struggle with I am a fitness guy. I am an exercise guy because I've never embraced that as something that makes me feel good, except when I'm about 60 pounds lighter. And then suddenly exercise gives me that endorphin rush.
Yeah.
So once I lose all the weight, obviously, I can, oh, this feels good. Well, it's kind of like my relationship with alcohol. I grew up not, alcohol was not it. I didn't understand what everybody was getting all excited about alcohol until the first time I lost about 50 pounds.
Wow.
And I sat down and had half a beer and was going, wow. This is what a buzz feels like. Now I know why people drink. But that's the thing is, it is identity. It is until you can get through that and say, I am a person who exercises every day with specific targets and goals in mind, then it's not going to happen because you're always going to get up and go, I don't feel like it today. And feelings trump identity.
I really like this topic. Even just going in mindsets and
I'm so sorry. I gotta interrupt that one. The last sentence you said, that feelings trump identity. I don't think that's gonna be true. Cause you look at to take the Bloomsday example, right?
All right, put a pin in that though, because I want to hear what Naziro is about. to say.
Okay.
I like where you're going, and we're also running out of time, so.
Yeah.
all I was gonna say really quickly, it also goes back into business too, just with the mindset of even handling money as a business owner. You have a passion, but then you get in that aspect of then taking on more. And so there's that poverty mindset that a lot of times, even that I had to heal from just in general when it comes to, being in business. And maybe that can be another topic we can do at some point. It's just even hearing other people's stories on how they passed that for those who didn't plan to be in business and you end up coming up with a good thing and getting past that mindset of spending more and all that stuff. And, and that's just what I was going to say is but with time running out, it doesn't make sense to get into it, but just a testimony about that specific mindset of making more and learning how to grow the business and not just ending it there and gifting and all this stuff. Cause there's also that politics that comes into business and the finances and the taxes and all this fun stuff. So.
And I'm glad that you said that because exactly what I was thinking is we have, and I'm going to blame Stephen, we have made this about exercise and eating and healthy habits, which is very important.
Yeah.
And I think that this idea of shifting our mindset of identity, of emotions, and I'm going to let you jump in with yours. I think it has way more to do with so many other aspects of life, our relationships, so to pigeonhole this into just exercise and eating healthy would be erroneously narrow, but so I'm glad you brought that to the business, that poverty mindset, that this is I don't have money. I don't know how to attract business. I don't know how to get new lead, all these identity words that we speak over ourselves unconsciously, super important to make that, at least find awareness of it. But yeah, I'm curious where you're going with this, but I agree there's an interesting that line of emotion trumps identity. And so go ahead and articulate your thought on that.
Yeah, so my thoughts on the feelings trumping identities is, if you, like Reed said, right, people that identify themselves a specific way, like someone that is a runner they run, whether it's rain, whether it's sunshine, but somebody that runs is not a runner, but runs for exercise. When it rains, they don't feel like it, and then they don't. So it is that being able to identify your identity is a massive level of meta awareness, which kind of goes back to one of the first thoughts was taking that assessment of your defaults that reveals what you are versus what you would like to tell other people you are. But yeah, I think that identity, especially with the running example, we can go into the business, the poverty versus the achievers.
Right.
You said relationships, cheaters cheat. They see it that they know it's gonna happen. But it is like it's your identity dictates your behaviors despite the instantaneous feelings a lot of times.
So because where the conversation started, we spent a lot of time going over what mindset is. I think the question also was, how do you change it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Right? How do you change it?
That'll be a good next topic.
And, you know, you gave the framework, the five component framework, but, you know, I'd love to kind of just turn the conversation back to like, okay, practically, what have we done part of this conversation to identify the things that didn't work, and what do we do to change our mindset?
Yeah.
That's good.
And I want to, a few people have mentioned this, and it was what I was about to kind of bring to the table, and it may be even kind of what we almost end on as a short answer to that question. I think Nazir is right. This deserves its own separate, you know, okay, we've identified kind of what it is, but now let's focus on the how do you shift it. And I think, Stephen, you were the first one to say it, but it's been mentioned. The articulation of it is Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World. The first scroll that he encourages you to read is about habits. And he says, he establishes that we are slaves to our habits. And if I must be a slave to my habit, then let me make them good habits.
Yeah.
And that piece of the action, the behavior, this can be an intellectual conversation all day long. We could, and I think Lauren, you were talking about this. I can think myself to death about how I could do better. It isn't until I actually put action to the thing. And so I think to the drinking, to the eating, to the running, it's like, I'm not going to intrinsically motivate myself to run until I run enough times that like Rob was saying, the endorphin kicks in and I'm like, oh, I like this. I've been talking about the soda waters. I used to drink soda like it was going out of business. Like 6-pack of Mountain Dew every day easily. And it wasn't until I got away from it long enough that I was like, it feels gross to drink soda. I don't like that. I do like this. And so it is sort of taking that one step. And a lot of times that first step is a small step. We're not going to go from couch potato. I mean, like what was the couch to 5K in 3 weeks or whatever? Like it takes time. And that time is micro steps, one little step at a time. And so not a robust answer, but we have 3 minutes left. So
I was gonna say, maybe we give Zane the opportunity to summarize for us.
Zane, you still on?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Reuter. I appreciate that. No, I guess my thought on this and in the whole concept of mindset and where my brain went was when we allow ourselves to shift and adjust and take in new information, that also frees up everyone else that we're around to do the same. So as we allow ourselves to change and adjust and grow, that helps others to see that, hey, you know what? Professor Reuter's growing. I want to be like Professor Reuter. I want to grow too. What does he know that I don't know? And so seeing that someone knows something that you don't know opens you up to that possibility to learn and grow. So as we surround ourselves with everyone that we're around that's helping us to do more, be better, be more of ourselves, find out who we are, then we can all work together to just grow the group.
Nice.
That's a good summation for what Friday Conversations is. we are a group of business or professional, people that are growing. And we come together because that's what we want to embrace. Our goal is to go find more of us and bring them to the table and say, this is the place.
That's awesome. I like that. I think I'm just gonna leave it on that note, because that is, I mean, everybody that was here in the room, I appreciate you being here. And there's something that you bring to this table that I think everyone else, and I can speak for myself, I look up to. I want to embody aspects that you guys have that I can learn from. And I hope that I also can bring that to the table. Obviously, that's why I'm here, but bringing us to the table, that's a great kind of closing thought there, Rob. I like that. I do want to invite people, come join us. We're here every Friday, free lunch, thanks to Idic Design. Thank you to Dryfly for hosting us. If you didn't already get a chance, vote for them for best of, and also for Nazira with, Compassion Catering, which hopefully you'll get a link up there for people to follow. But we're here every Friday. We'd love to see you. Next week is the 1st of February. It's the first Friday of February. So we're going to be doing arts and entertainment. And the plan, as far as I know, is to have Melissa Adele, I think is her last name, with Coil Studio. And they do the aerial acrobatic dancing with ribbons and all of that stuff. So fantastic, cool. And she's just an amazing person. So we will see you all next week, and enjoy the weekend.